Some hikers on Nova Scotia's Dover Island near Peggys Cove came across an unusual sight recently. An endangered North Atlantic right whale was swimming surprisingly close to the coastline. Tonya Wimmer is executive director of the Marine Animal Response Society. So what do you make of seeing a right whale like that so close to the rocks? How unusual is it?
I must say, it was pretty surprising when a friend actually shared the footage and said, "You got to look at this." And when it comes into the picture and it's clear as anything that it's a right whale. And I must say, I did gasp when the footage sort of backs out a bit. You see the rocks, and it was like, "Oh my God, why is it so close to shore?" It is. It's not. We would say it's more of a rare thing to sort of see them that close to shore. It is not. It's just not their typical behavior for, especially here in Canada. But they have been known to be near shore. There's some whales off Cape Cod that they've literally had their chins almost on the beaches and have been up rivers. So it's just not your typical sighting.
How valuable to you is to see this kind of footage?
Well, obviously, given all the conservation measures and all the hard work everyone's trying to do in Canada to save them, knowing where every one of these animals are, if we can, is really important. And so, even besides the very cool factor of seeing that animal, and I'm sure for those climbers, it was really impressive to see. But immediately for us, we share the information with our fisheries and oceans colleagues so that they have it in terms of their discussions and communications about where these animals are right now in Canadian waters.
I understand they didn't even know what kind of whale it was, right?
The climbers know they were just filming while they were doing some of their bouldering, and this whale just sort of snuck into view, and I think the drone pilot was quite surprised, and afterwards quite surprised to hear that it was one of the very few remaining endangered North Atlantic right whales.
Well, what do we know about this particular whale?
Yeah, and this is the very cool thing about right whales, because of that little white rough patches on their head and a bit on their chins and faces. There's actually a catalog of each of these whales, and they can be identified. And for this, guys, our colleagues at the New England Aquarium and with NOAA, which is the DFO counterpart in the US, they were very quick to be able to identify this animal. His number is 5104. He doesn't have a name yet. It is a male, and he's only 3 years old. He was born in 2021.
So he seems to be healthy?
He's a little bit thin. Healthy for right whales is sadly a bit of relative, because they're all in a little bit of not great shape compared to their cousins in the south, way down in the southern hemisphere. But he's not looking too bad. He's heading into the feeding grounds, so they always look a little thinner and a little sort of grayer until they come into these rich feeding grounds. So hopefully that's where he's headed, and he'll get there safely and be able to bulk up a little bit.
Now, at his age, would he normally be alone, or did he get separated from the others?
No, right whales in general, they're not, except where there's feeding or on some of their calving grounds. That's usually when you see them in bigger groups, but they're not known to be in huge groups like we see for some of our, like pilot whales or dolphins. And so a right whale on their own is not usually a huge element of concern, especially he is old enough to not be with his mom anymore. He's 3. So the, him on his own is not so weird. To have him that close to shore and near Halifax Harbor was concerning at first.
But 3 years old is still quite young.
Oh yeah, these right whales. They usually have their babies, and then within the year or so, the babies have left mom. It's just how whales do it. And so he is still a young animal, and I'm sure still figuring a few things out. He has been spotted in Canadian waters before, the year after he was born. I think the last sighting was August of 2022. So he's been out there somewhere, and I don't know if there's been many sightings of him since. So it's quite nice to see him. That's at least good to know he's still out there.
Now, another right whale named Sheila was recently spotted in the Gulf of St. Lawrence, entangled in gear. Do you have any updates on her?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a bit of the situation with these animals when they're spotted in wide open ocean, is that they spotted her and reported her as entangled right away. And as far as I know, she hasn't been relocated since. So everyone's very hopeful and sort of on standby that if she gets resighted still in the Gulf of St. Lawrence or other parts of Canadian waters, that there's things that the teams and who do disentanglement and obviously with fisheries and oceans can do. But to date, I don't think she's been relocated yet.
Are you expecting another sighting of the young 3-year-old whale?
Oh my gosh, I hope so. That's always the good news, right? We like to see these animals. It is obviously a challenge when it comes to the conservation, and obviously we have a lot of people on the water working, and that's always very difficult. But everyone's very much working together to try to protect these animals, and so resights of them is obviously what we want, and we want to see them healthy. We want to see them free from injuries or harm, and just being able to coexist with our humans that are also out there.
All right, well, a bit of good news today. Thank you, Tonya. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much.